somebody who cares. When I found my most intimate prayer.
You're welcome on board this teaching. Last lesson, I started a new series of teaching tagged Intimacy in Marriage. And I itemized some areas where intimacy is required in marriage. You will recall that I mentioned that there should be emotional intimacy, there should be financial intimacy, there should be spiritual intimacy, there should be physical intimacy, and there should also be intellectual intimacy. Now, today, I want to quickly mention some of the factors that can engender intimacy in marriage, and I will take one of them, and that's what we will discuss for today. Now, for intimacy to occur in marriage, I mean to say for husband and wife to be closely knitted, to have a good understanding of one another, there is one key factor that must not be lacking in that relationship. And what is that factor? Did I hear you say communication? If you have said communication, then you are right. Communication. One key factor that will engender connect, that will engender closeness, that will engender transparency, that will engender understanding in marriage is communication. And what is communication? Communication is expression of one's mind, one's feelings, one's opinion. Now, come to think of it, what happens in a marriage where either of the party does not have freedom of expression, where one of the party cannot express himself? And you know that's exactly what happens where one of them is using force or coercion on the other person, or in a situation whereby one of them does not have listening ears. So the other person will begin to bottle up. He will not be able to express his feelings, his opinions, his idea, his mind over different issues. And in such situations, there will be no intimacy. Now, in an ideal marriage situation, each party involved should be able to express his or her mind without fear of being misunderstood. You know, each of us, we might have been part of maybe a society, a meeting, an association, and you find yourself in a situation whereby you are afraid of expressing yourself because you think you might be understood. That you might be misunderstood. Now that is understandable if it's in an association, in a gathering. But if this happens in a home setting, then it is totally abnormal. Husband and wife should be free to express themselves without fear of being misunderstood. After all, she is my wife. I can't say anything before her. After all, he is your husband. So you should feel free to express your feelings. And one quick thing we need to mention is this. For the other party, for to be able to express him or herself, then the other person must have what you call the power of empathetic listening. You must be able to listen passionately. because there's no need for me to talk if my partner is not listening. Every individual loves to be heard. Every individual loves to be listened to. Every human being loves to be listened to. So in a situation whereby you are speaking and the other person is not listening, then you stop speaking. So there have been, in marriage counseling, I've had a lot of couple, a lot of individual, husband or wife, saying that my wife does not talk and she bottles up and she's. The reason is maybe because you are not listening. So if you want your partner to express him or herself, you must be listening. And I need to let you know that if you are not a good listener, it is either that you are selfish or that you are arrogant. Should I repeat myself? If you are not a good listener, if you don't like to listen to other people, if you don't listen to other people, it is either that you are arrogant because you feel your opinion is always superior, so everybody must hear you, or selfish because you felt people, let me express myself the way I'm feeling. Do you care about the way other person is feeling or the way the other person feels? So, and you know that arrogance and selfishness they can kill marriage. So we must not allow arrogance or selfishness. So we must learn to listen to each other. And I need to also say that it takes maturity to be a good listener. It takes maturity to be a good listener. That reminds me, I was preparing a particular young man and woman for marriage. So I was handling them in marriage counseling. And I noticed that each time I was teaching them, taking them through the teachings on premarital counseling, the man will be listening passionately, and he will almost be using his head to cover his wife. And I was laughing because I was seeing selfishness. You wanted to hear, quite all right. You wanted to be blessed, quite all right. But you are not mature enough to care. Is my wife also listening? I was thinking that as a man, at intervals, you should look at your wife to be in the face and see whether she's listening or whether she's dosing, whether she's understanding what is being said or not. So it takes mature people to listen. Now, another thing I need to say concerning the issue of communication is what we call effective communication. What is effective communication? Now, effective communication is the kind of communication that can evoke response, that can engender response. And that reminds me also, as a younger person, when I was quite young in teaching ministry, I was asked to handle a teaching in the church one day, and I over-prepared. I really prepared by the grace of God, and the teaching was okay. And when I finished, an elderly theologian walked up to me and patted me at the back and said, "Young man, you did a very good job." And I was happy. As I was smiling from cheek to cheek, he said, "But you know what? You prepared too much." And I was shocked. Is it a sin to have prepared too much? Then the man said, "But even though you have prepared well, you are not supposed to have released everything just like that. Everything you have prepared, you just wanted them to get everything. You wanted them to know that you know this subject. That was wrong." He said, and that was why when you finish and you ask is there any question? There was nobody to ask any question because you have taught everything. The same thing happens in some marriages. When you say everything, you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, your partner will almost have nothing to say. And even if he has nothing to, he or she has something to say, he will not be able to say it. So now you must employ the instruments of effective communication. You must communicate. You must pass across information that evoke response, and you must wait for response. You must be eager. You are not a radio station. You are not casting news. So you must pass across information and wait. Allow your partner to also speak. And that is what we call effective communication. When there is effective communication, there will be intimacy. Also, there is also what we call non-verbal communication. In marriages, we must also employ the instrument of non-verbal communication. When we are talking about non-verbal communication, we are talking about the language of touch. We are even talking about the tone of your speeches, the tone of your communication. We're talking about the expressions on your face. We're talking about your body languages. All of these, and your eye contact. All of these, culminate into non-verbal communication. As couples, we must learn to use a lot of non-verbal communication. And I want to ask, what is it that your eye contact has been expressing to your wife? To you or to your husband? Does she read love in your eyes? And the way you look, the way you appear in his or her presence, can she read acceptance? All of these are very necessary in communication. Now, the last thing I want to say is that you need to also understand the language of love of your partner. Language of love. Oh, I've read a book on, and maybe you have come in contact with that book on languages of love. There are different languages of love, and I agree with the author of that book. There are different languages of love. So there could be language of touch. There could be language of gifts and things like that, rendering special services and all of that. But one thing I want to say is that as a husband or as a wife, you need to understand the language that pleases your husband. What is it that when I do, it makes my wife happy? Let me round up with this story. Shortly after I just got married, I was doing everything to make my wife happy, to the extent that I would be the one that would go to the market, buy food stuff, buy everything for the home. And yet my wife kept complaining, I don't feel loved. I'm providing for all the needs, all your needs, all the needs of the home, and we are having fun together and all of that. So what is the problem? But one day, I asked her, excuse me, what is the issue? You keep saying you don't feel loved. You are not expressing love to you. So what is it that I am doing that wrong? Or what is it that I'm not doing right? Then she said, I want to always know that whenever you go out, you have me at the back of your mind. So I sat down to consider that, and I knew what she meant. So one day, I went to the market on my normal business, and on my way coming home, I bought something very cheap. Very, very cheap for her. And on getting home, I handed it over to her. And you needed to come to have seen the excitement. My wife was leaping and shouting, oh, my husband remembers me today. Oh, he had me at the back of his mind. So I mean, okay, this is all you want. No problem. Since that day, I got it well. I know that she appreciates gift, no matter how small. You need to understand the language of love of your spouse. That will go a long way to change the game in your marriage. The Lord bless you. Have a wonderful day.